little discussion about the hand tools that are used here in the New Yankee workshop. I know we don't feature many of those, but they're important to us. This is a Yankee screwdriver. My father and grandfather were carpenters, and they would exchange these as gifts for Christmas. And it's got a spring inside it. You may have seen this thing, or you may be lucky enough to actually find one in a yard sale or something. If so, pick it up, because they do a wonderful job of placing and screwing in a fastener. Yankee screwdriver. And my father built this box, this old wooden box, many, many years ago, probably right after World War II, after he was finished making Liberty ships in the Charlestown Navy Yard. Anyway, he cared for his tools carefully, and he would have had the Yankee screwdriver. He would have had a number of saws. This is one of his favorites. This is the fine tooth saw. But he would not just be careless with it. He'd slip it through this slot. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a little bit longer than, and he wanted to protect the teeth so that they only were touching wood, the wooden bottom here, and he would stick the length, if necessary, out through. And he had several of those on that side. Of course, he'd have a hammer, not a fiberglass job like this one, which is my preference, but he would have had a wooden hammer. He wouldn't have had a speed square like this for squaring off his boards, but he would have had something like this. This happens to be a treasured antique from my grandfather, who was also a carpenter, and you can see he marks all of his tools F.W. Morash, and he has 5 little indentations to identify his tools as opposed to anybody else that might be on the job site, and preventing any discussions for who belongs to what. So he would have that in his toolbox, or one like it. There we go. And a couple of screwdrivers. Now, today we'd have a Phillips head screwdriver at least, and he would have had a straight blade and probably no Phillips head. A couple of pencils, and this is his ruler. He would have a folding 6-foot rule. That was indispensable. He didn't much care for steel tapes, although they were out, but he didn't like his. He was a traditionalist, and that would be what he needed. Hacksaw might be useful, bottle of glue, and now you've got the basics for a toolbox that you could carry around. It wouldn't kill you for the weight. Only a few tools that would be absolutely required. Well, now the inspiration for the tool-hung toolbox that we found in Wisconsin, and then came back here to build one here, was a lot of fun, as you'll see when we visit that and play on some of the mechanical objects that the collector had in his museum, his private museum, because not many people get to see it, but Norm goes in. So when Norm came back here, he built a version of the chest that captured our imagination when we saw it in Wisconsin. This was the Studley tool case, which was illustrated in magazines and has been perhaps the most famous antique tool cabinet in the country. It was also at the Smithsonian and was the subject of our field trip there to see it. This isn't quite as fancy, but this is how we are now keeping the tools. And what I like about it is you can take one look and see if anything's missing. There's up in here are the squares and the handle tools and the dividers. This is a divider that my grandfather would have put his marks on. Love to see that. And some of the other tri-squares and the bevel gauges. for reasons having to do with the way the world travels. This is a Japanese collection of Japanese saws, which are becoming indispensable, and a couple of other objects, traditional tools, a couple of planes. The chisel collection is over here, with the screwdrivers and others, and these wonderful hinges that Norm was able to modify for this use, and the drawers down in here with various things that he's found indispensable, with box joints on a tiger maple face. Kind of a nice thing to have. I like to look at this, see what's missing, see if we can close it up for the night, keep it protection, and keep the dust off it. Build one. You'll be glad you did.
We better get to what we came here to see, which is what's been called probably the finest example of a tool chest. It was built by a piano maker from Boston by the name of Henry Studley, and he worked for the Poole Piano Company for 30 years between 1890 and 1920 when he put this together. Now the outside is Honduran mahogany with some ebony panels. Inside, an incredible collection of nearly 300 tools. And I'm told that this case is so heavy that it takes 3 strong men to lift it up onto the wall. I mean, look at the beauty of this cabinet and these tools. Well, that was quite a visit. And I must say, I'm still blown away by the quality of craftsmanship in that Studley tool chest. Now, he built that chest over his entire career. So be a little forgiving when you see ours. We only had a few days, he had a lifetime. But the concept is great. Get the tools up off the floor, organized, and not have them banging against each other. So here's our tool chest, located in this corner of the shop, which is easy to get to. I set the height so that I can easily reach everything. And I did take some inspiration from Studley, and that was to use a variety of species of wood. I always have semi-valuable pieces hanging around the shop. And being a Yankee, you don't throw anything out, and you know someday you'll find a use for them. So I have a mahogany frame for the door, a mahogany panel, and this nice black walnut for a molding. There are 2 door panels that hang on some heavy-duty piano hinges, and when you open it up, you've got 3 feet of height and 6 feet of length to store the tools. Everything is organized by category. Here are the gripping tools. Then I have measuring and marking tools in this area. Here I have saws, and then striking tools, shaping tools, and of course you always have some planes. On this panel I have carving tools, screwdrivers, and chisels. I also incorporated a few small storage drawers for miscellaneous items. So if you'd like to build your own version of the wall-mounted tool chest, a measure drawing will be available, and you'll hear more about that before the program ends.